He is David Shaw. How are you, Coach?
I'm great, Rich. How are you, man?
I am doing fine. Are you going to settle down and watch tonight's NFL game a little bit if you get a chance? I know you got a big game coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
you peek at
Thursday
it?
nights we get out of the office. I get the coaches out of the office. We don't have dinner here. We call it family dinner night, so we get out and get away. So
Okay.
our kids are really excited, of course, to watch. There's two tight ends. There's a Stanford tight end on one side, a Stanford tight end on the other side. So
that's right.
we're going to kick back and watch the game.
Okay, so you got what? You got Ertz. It's the Ertz Hooper hour. Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
I don't know if NBC's marquee making that the marquee matchup tonight, Coach. But I love, everything's local. I love it.
Always.
Before we start our conversation about your team, college football, et cetera, I do want to revisit some of the stuff we talked about on the NFL Network last April. Are you surprised that Sam Darnold is the only starter from that rookie quarterback class that we saw drafted that night in Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I saw this kid, especially the last 2 years, the quick release, the quick decision making, the great feet, the anticipation, which is I put on par with anybody that's come out of college in the last 10 years. His anticipation of throws and seeing windows, it's impressive. So it didn't surprise me one bit.
So you think he will transition into the NFL smoothly? How do you see it going for him and the Jets then?
Oh, he'll have some dips here and there, which they all do. He'll have some rookie moments, but this guy's going to have some flashes because this is how he's built. I think it's not long before he's in that top, third of quarterbacks in the NFL, and then maybe even higher after that.
And then Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, he's listed as the second quarterback, but word is in your old stomping grounds professionally that it's going to be RG3 who would trot into the field to back up Joe Flacco. What do you think his transition, knowing that organization as well as you do, is going to be there in Baltimore?
Well, I think it's the biggest phrase is roster management, whereas RG3 is probably the next best quarterback to go in and play quarterback, but they're going to have a role for this guy. They've got multiple guys on staff that know how to get the most out of an athletic quarterback like this that can throw. This is not a receiver or running back they're putting out there quarterback. This kid can throw, and he can throw deep, and he can throw accurately. But as they're kind of spoon feeding him a little bit, let him toe dip in the water, they're going to find a way to help for this guy to help them win football games.
So, but that means, I know we talked about this briefly because it happened in the last pick of the night, and we get off the air so quickly. But I mean, how aren't you? If you think he is your quarterback of your future, I mean, don't you run the risk of getting him? What are you going to put him in the slot? You're going to put him next to Flacco? I mean, how do you work that?
And that's why I say roster management, because if something happens to Flacco, I'm just guessing. I'm not there.
Sure.
I'm guessing they're saying, hey, he's not ready to be the down after down player on a team that wants to win the Super Bowl. This is not a rebuilding franchise. This is not where the Jets are, where, hey, we're going to have some bumps, but this guy's going to grow. This team wants to win right now, and they're built to win right now. That defense is impressive. They've got weapons. So Robert probably gives him the best chance if something happens to Flacco, but to be able to put especially a third down package together, be able to put a red zone package together for this young superstar to come in there and affect the game as a runner and as a passer, that may be too inviting not to have, which is why you carry three quarterbacks, which most people don't do nowadays. But if you're not sure that superstar is ready to play an entire game, you got to have a backup quarterback who's in-house and ready to go if something happens in the middle of the game.
And I don't know if you were able to peek, David Shaw, at any preseason action involving the number one overall pick that night, Baker Mayfield. I know you're concerned about height on draft night, and that's the reason why guys that tall aren't drafted first overall very often, if ever, in the NFL. Yeah. Any of those concerns alleviated so far from you?
No, not at all. But once again, for me, there are anomalies, right? Drew Brees is an anomaly. There are a lot of guys with Drew Brees' dimensions that were outstanding in college that are watching NFL football, not playing NFL football, which is what the thing when you watch Baker Mayfield, and I'm one of those guys. I like the prototypical 6'2" and up quarterback. When you watch the kid play, all those things I described Sam Darnold, this kid's got the same thing. Quick release, He's great in the pocket. He's not good in the pocket. He's great in the pocket. He can find windows. He can peek around him and see if he's got time to throw it or needs to escape. He's got all those things, and on top of the intangibles, you just wonder at time, oh gosh, is a guy's wide open, the ball gets batted down, or a guy's wide open, can he not see? But if over time he's proven to be that next Drew Brees type of a quarterback, which I don't want to put him in the running quarterback category because this kid's a quarterback. He can play from the pocket, and if he can see like Drew Brees can see, this kid's got a chance to be really good.
David Shaw.
It's just over time, you got to see.
David Shaw, Stanford head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about Luck a little bit here. My eyes are wide open from some of the stories we're hearing about Luck. His quotes calling him during his process of dealing with his shoulder injury, called himself at the time what he was, a sad, miserable human, scared about football, and a miserable SOB to be around. Did you sense that when you were in any contact with him over the last year plus, David?
We had multiple conversations at different periods at different times, and as I tell all these guys, I want to be here for them no matter what. When things are great, when things aren't great, when you're playing in the NFL, when you get out of the NFL and you're going into whatever business you do after the NFL. And so we talked to some about football. We talked to some about life a little bit, and it was great to have him back here on campus in the off season. And he had to work through a lot. And you're talking about a man now that has never really had to struggle. He's brilliant. He's athletic. He's got all the intangibles and all the tangibles that you're looking for to play the game. And he went through something traumatic where he couldn't play. He couldn't go out and do what he loves to do. And what you've got now is a healthy guy that appreciates going through the depths of what he went through, and now back to out there being healthy. And he's still not where he was before, but I think between the ears, he's excited. He's energized. You heard him say it too. He knows he truly loves the game. He couldn't wait to get back and play. And I think he still may have some rusty moments early in the year, but I would guess by midseason, if he gets into true Andrew Luck form with the guys that they've got around him and the offensive line now that they've rebuilt in front of him, it's got a chance to be fun in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that was another thing that caught me by a little bit of surprise, is that he learned he loved the game. I mean, is it possible that guys don't realize when they're in the middle of such an ascendancy of his or in general that they don't love the game until they lose it? In a way?
Absolutely. As you know, I coached in the NFL for 9 years. There's some guys that are so good at it, and it comes so natural that, honestly, even the ones that don't do it on purpose, sometimes they take it for granted. Hey, I just show up, and I go dominate, and I go home, and then I go to the mall, and I go to movies and hang out, and I come back to practice, and I dominate again. That's just how they're built until you get to that point where it's not easy. A lot of them happen when they get older. And oh my gosh, I have to work harder now. I actually don't want to leave this game. I love this game. I got to work harder now to prolong my career. And some guys like Andrew, even when they're kind of young, they go through an injury, they go through something that where it looks like the game either physically is going to be taken away from them, or they're not going to be able to do it at that level anymore. And it hits them like, I wasn't just coasting there. I think I actually enjoy this. I miss that. I love this. And you get renewed. And to see Andrew walking around by the time he left here to go back to Indianapolis, walking around on his toes, and just, I can't wait to get back. Can't wait to get back in the huddle. Can't wait to get back my line, my guys, and be with my guys. So I'm excited for him.
And then last one for you on the professional football front here, Coach. It appears in Carolina, Christian McCaffrey is going to get a healthy dose, like 300-plus touches type dose, like Maine bell cow type dose. What do you tell Panther fans about his readiness for such a workload, do you think?
Yeah, just stay on the edge of your seat. Stay on the edge of your seat. This young man, Christian and I talked a couple times this summer, and he has worked so hard to get to where he is, and he's worked so hard this offseason because you don't know what the NFL is like until you go through a year, right? So he thought he was prepared last year, and he was prepared to do well, over 80 catches and played really well. But now he knows the demands on his body, and I think he's stronger. He's worked on a lot of things. I think he loves the offense and the direction the offense is going under Norv Turner. He's fired up, and he's physically and mentally and emotionally ready to go. And I think he's gonna surprise even people that liked him last year. I think he's going to be even better this year.
Like between the tackles, Norv's going to use him between the tackles, do you think?
Hey, this kid's a football player, and even over the in the preseason, I think he had a 80-yard run or 70-something yard run. It was between the tackles, and for all Stanford fans, we saw that happen and say, hey, we've seen that a bunch here.
All right, so let's talk about your current team, the one that you're sending out on the field against USC this weekend. Where do you stand on playing such an important, crucial game so early on? And obviously, you know, every single college coach I've had on over the past few weeks, and I've talked about this with you too. There's no training camp. There's no scrimmaging against other programs. I mean, you just come right out of the box and have to compete. Where do you stand on having such an important game week 2, Coach?
Well, I think we would all prefer that this thing was pushed back a week or two, maybe week 3, week 4. But at the same time, there's a reason why a lot of people play those preseason matchups. You see Washington, Auburn, you see LSU, their game the other night. You see these exciting games early on. So on that side of it, I don't mind, because so many of these games are out-of-conference games. Everybody wants a tune-up game. And out of play, week 2, 2 teams that there's a reason why it's also not that late at night, because it gets a lot of viewership on the East Coast. These have been some of the more exciting games of the year after year. You're going to see a lot of guys that are going to be household names, some guys that are household names, some games are household names after this game, because these games are physical, they're exciting, and many of them go down to the wire.
Well, you got a Heisman Trophy candidate at running back, and USC gave up over 300 rushing yards last week against UNLV. You think that's something to exploit this coming weekend, sir?
Shh. Don't tell anybody. Of course, you know I'm teasing. Bryce is a special football player, and a week ago we didn't get a chance to run the ball very much or very well against a team that was dedicated to stopping them. We put the ball in the air, and KJ Costello threw for over 300. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside had a monster game as well. Mm-hmm. But Clay Helton knows we're going to come in and we got to run the ball. We want to establish the run. We'll use the play action pass. We're going to do the things that we've done. They have a very similar philosophy. They've got a superstar quarterback that's just starting his career, and some really good, talented receivers. They want to establish the run also. This has a chance to be one heck of a football game.
All right, and I'm glad when you mentioned other contests from this past weekend, and you did not mention my alma mater versus Notre Dame, although, you know, I mean, it's just week 1. You never know, long-term season. What did you do? Did you catch any of that game knowing that you have Notre Dame later on? I know that you had your own game, but are you already on to something like that at all, Coach?
Well, yeah, Notre Dame has a new defensive coordinator, so I was able to, by the time I got home, after doing some family stuff, I was able to actually see kind of the second half of that game. I wanted to see what Notre Dame was doing defensively. And I know Wolverine fans are a little anxious right now, but they've got a young team. They've got some guys in some positions that 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now are going to be really, really good. So I'd stay tuned. I think those are 2 really good football teams, and it might have been a little early for Michigan to play against such a good team right now, but these guys have a chance to learn and grow. They're still learning and growing with their quarterback, putting him in a system who's got a chance. Shea Patterson's got a chance to be a really good quarterback as well. So I'd stay tuned with that team also.
Okay, Coach. Really appreciate the time. Always enjoy our chats. Always do. Thanks.
Always great to talk to you, Rich.
Always. Right back at you. We'll chat down the line. That's David Shaw of Stanford, at Coach David Shaw here.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.